scores majestically.
Oh my word! Fabulous!
Oh, what a strike that is. Simply spectacular.
Oh, it's an absolute beauty, isn't it?
The best goal of the night.
It all starts here.
Hello and welcome to National League 72. It's been another busy week of National League action, especially for those teams in the hunt for a playoff space. We had 5th, 7th, 8th and 9th all playing on Tuesday night. Aaron, it's been very busy. Where do you want to start?
Well, I think the best place to start is with Rochdale. You know, they've all of a sudden hit a really good run of form. 3 wins in a row now, and they've actually displaced 7th place Oldham. You know, we spoke last week and we said for Rochdale, they were in a false position because of the amount of games that they had played, you know, and the amount of games that they had to make up. But the important thing for them was getting on a run, getting into those playoff spots, and then all of a sudden their position looks a lot more favourable because they do still have, you know, a number of games in hand over the other promotion candidates.
Can they put the pressure on York City and Forest Green now?
They can. I do look at where York are and where Forest Green are, and I think they've probably amounted enough points to be able to see them through. You know, I still think they're going to continue to win games. I probably think it's too much to displace top place Barnet, but I'd imagine that York and Forest Green are probably in a fairly comfortable position unless they totally fall off a cliff.
And the fans are right behind them as well. John on socials has said, brilliant team performance, dare we dream up the Dale. So the fans are now starting to believe that playoffs is a possible option.
Yeah, definitely. And rightly so. You know, the way that Jimmy McNulty sets his team up and their style of play, it's a very attractive way of playing. You know, they look to get the ball down, play through the lines, runners in behind and get crosses into the box. You know, Tarin Alarakia has now all of a sudden kicked on again. You know, brilliant assist for the first goal. And I think that now they'll start to believe themselves. They definitely had a period where they weren't able to see games off. They weren't able to get maximum points. But 3 wins in a row, still playing an attractive style of football. And now all of a sudden they're in those playoff places. I think that, you know, now the fans are on side. Now the fans are starting to believe, and that can only be good for the confidence of everyone in conjunction with Rochdale.
Big win for Rochdale on Tuesday night. Was it an even bigger win for Oldham and Mickey Mellon?
Definitely. You know, I think that for Mickey Mellon and his side, they needed that win. They needed to get 3 points on the board. They'd gone 7 games without a win, which it shows how well they did earlier on in the league. You know, earlier on in the season to still be in there without a win in 7 games and still be bang in the middle of the playoffs. But in order to stay there, you have to start getting maximum points on the board. And we've said it throughout. Once you're coming to the end of the season, you want to be going in with fuller confidence, having won games, your tails up, and feeling like you can go out there and win games. You know, in the playoffs, it's irrelevant of what you've done throughout the season. It's about winning games. So you want to get that feel-good factor, that winning feeling in amongst the boys as much as possible and for as long as possible going into that running.
Well, John, the Rochdale fan, was very optimistic. But what does Dean, the Oldham fan, think of his team's performance? He says, fair play to them tonight, put in a decent performance and got the result when needed. Crucial win. Not getting excited about it, though. If they win Saturday, things are looking a lot better, which sort of echoes what you were saying in the fact that they needed that win, but they need to back it up now with more results.
100%. You know, it's always about backing up that 3 points. There's no use in winning that game and then going and drawing or losing your next game. It is now about consistency, and that's going to be the same whether you're challenging for promotion or whether you're trying to stay in the division. You know, consistency is always the key, and once you get on a run like that, then all of a sudden you can start, you know, premeditating what can happen. But first and foremost, they've got the 3 points. on to the next one. Can you get maximum points from that? If they're able to do that, then that also puts pressure on the teams around you to make sure that they're picking up maximums as well.
A quick word on Eastleigh, 10th in the table. Is the playoffs a bit too much of a stretch?
I think it's going to be difficult, absolutely, because you look, Altrincham are just outside it now, and they're a team that I fancied if they got into the playoffs. I kind of fancied them to go on and win it. You know, that's not a given, you know, and that's no disrespect to any of the teams that are in there. All of them can stake a valid case for winning those playoffs. But I just look at Altrincham as probably, they're just my tip if I have to pick one. Every team in that pack will fancy themselves to get in there. And for Eastleigh, they're still chasing. They're going to have to go on a really good run if they hope to get in there. If they're able to do that, then, you know, you wouldn't bet against them.
Yeah, set up for a brilliant final few games of the season, exclusively live on DAZN. The playoffs are going to be absolutely brilliant. But down at the bottom of the table, are we seeing a bit of a revival from Boston United?
We are. You know, you've got to say that since Graham Coughlin's come in, they've been excellent. You know, they're on a really good run of form. Listen, he's been there, done it. You know, he's been a manager for a long time, really experienced. And I think when he first came in, I don't think a lot of people would have given Boston a chance. You know, they were in a really precarious situation, and I don't think anyone really believed that they would be able to get out of it. But now all of a sudden, they've hit form. They're now chasing down, you know, your Wheelstones, your Filed, your Dagenhams, your Aldershots. They're now starting to close that gap drastically. And I think out of that group, Dagenham and Redbridge will probably be the team that are most looking over their shoulder, because, you know, Wheelstone have had a good patch. I know they've lost back-to-back games, but still their current form has been fairly good. Aldershot have now started to really pull away. Filed, you know, stop-start, but they're still picking up a few results. Dagenham and Redbridge are the one team that really can't buy a win, you know, for love nor money. And I think that's 12 games now that they've not managed to get a win. So, you know, they're the team that I think Boston will be looking to really hunt down and displace.
Yeah, the fans are very optimistic as well. Matt on social says, the great escape, ... J Bagger 91. Okay, now I'm really starting to believe. Could be on for one of the greatest escapes ever here. And Charlie says, give Coughlin whatever he wants. If they do get out of this will go down as an incredible escape.
Absolutely. You know, I don't think anyone gave Boston a prayer. Listen, they were one of the favourites to go down, you know, before a ball had been kicked, because obviously they'd come up through the playoffs and it was always going to be difficult, and it is difficult for newly promoted teams. I think when you look at what Tamworth have done, you look at what Yeovil have done, I think you have to take your hat off to them, because they've got themselves into positions where they're more than safe now in the National League, and they can start to build for next season. The likes of Boston, they've had to almost do it the hard way. You know, their budget is one of the lowest budgets in the division. It's very difficult for them to attract players because of, you know, the size of the club. But what Graham Coughlin's done is come in and just brought a real belief and brought a real energy to the squad and to the side. And now all of a sudden they're starting to pick up results, getting really good wins, and now there's a belief around the place. So long may it continue. You know, I hope that they can continue to back up the good work that they've done. And we saw it last season with Kettering. They got ahead of steam, but it was a little bit too late. I think that there's more than enough games to be played now, between now and the end of the season, where they can go on a run and they can realistically get out of it. And like you say, it would be an unbelievable achievement from Graham Coughlin and his team.
And in the final game on Tuesday night, Forest Green picked up a 2-1 victory over Sutton United. We had the pleasure of speaking to Steve Cottrell on Saturday live on DAZN for the game when Forest Green travelled to York City. He said, when I asked him the question about is the title race over, no, it's not. Now, I wasn't going to correct him in that moment and say, well, I think it might be, but they have to go and get good results, and they backed up the 1-1 draw at York with a good win in midweek.
Yeah, and listen, Steve Cottrell will never concede until it's mathematically done. And I respect that. You know, he's going into his dressing room and he's demanding from his players. He's saying to his players, listen, we go right until the end. So, yes, I agree with him. You have to keep going, keep fighting, and you never know what can happen in football. You know, is it realistic? You know, probably not. You know, you'd imagine that Barnet would go on and lift the trophy in the next few weeks. But mathematically, it's still possible for them to catch him. And if they can't catch Barnet, you want to catch York. You want to finish second in the division and then go into the semi-final straight away because you finished in those second and third spots, and you go in there with a real belief that, look, we might not be the best team in the division, but we're the next best. And like we saw when Notts County got promoted, you know, we go on and get promoted to the Football League.
Yeah, there were plenty of fantastic goals at the weekend and midweek. So it is that time of the show where Aaron is going to pick out his top three. Lee Unlove's late goal for Barnet, vital 3 points for them, but it's probably not going to make the top three. The gap now at the top is 11 points. So many important goals. Which one are you going with at number 3?
Well, my first one is Reyes Cleary for Hartlepool. You know, I think this is just a fantastic individual goal. He picks the ball up out on the left-hand side, and he has one thing in his mind. Once he cuts in, he just lets fly, fantastic strike, and gives Hartlepool the lead in that game. And yeah, brilliant goal from Reyes.
Okay, in at number 2?
Number 2 is one of the top goal scorers in the division, Regan Linney. You know, we know what a fantastic striker of the ball he is. But, you know, he gets into a good position on the right-hand side. But once he checks back onto that left foot, you know he's just going to let fly. Absolute hammer of a strike. And, yeah, he gets second place this week.
And top spot goes to?
Top spot is Tyrese Shade. You know, this starts at the halfway line. Gets a little bit of luck initially. But, you know, his persistence and then his composure at the end to just lob the ball into the goal. You know, fantastic goal from Tyrese. And, yeah, we'll give it to him this week.
Plenty of great goals from last weekend, and I'm sure there will be more this weekend. We'll look ahead to this week's fixtures at the weekend in the National League, which includes a huge double header. Oldham versus Rochdale, which will be a feisty local derby. And of course, Hartlepool taking on Solihull. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
47 years of promoting boxing. What a ride it's been. I was 23 years old at the time. I got an invite from the Boxing Board of Control to take a licence out. Back then, it was all run by the cartel.
We have a new promoter in British Championship Boxing, Frank Warren.
People liked it, I think, the fact that someone was taking the cartel on. I've never been afraid about shaking things up and working with new media.
This is a bit of a dream come true.
Pay-per-view, satellite TV.
Very proud of Amir. What he done was fantastic.
Bringing shows in from America Live. I've been lucky enough to promote some of the biggest names in boxing.
I'd like to thank Mr. Frank Warren for having me over here.
Just when you think it can't get any bigger, my mobile rang. We get this call from His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh. Off we went to the races. I'm as competitive as my fighters, and I fight for my fighters. I'm always looking for the next challenge, and I know there's one there now.
Queensbury arrives at the home of boxing, DAZN, multi-year deal, let's go.
This is a company that is devoted to boxing. They have a worldwide platform. And for us, that is very, very important to do what Queensbury is doing, to be expanding and building, working together for the betterment of boxing, as I believe it will be.
DAZN is the global home of women's football, bringing you the best live games. With the biggest stars, battling it out in the biggest competitions.
Cue the chaos. First blood in the title decider. Would you believe it?
Witness every season-defining moment.
Written in the stars.
Live and on demand. Only on DAZN.
All eyes are fixed up north this weekend as the Latics host local rivals Rochdale in a potential playoff decider, live on DAZN from 12:15. And our featured fixture between Hartlepool United and Solihull Moors is sure to be a belter. The reverse fixture of that 7-goal thriller will be live on DAZN from 5:15. Also catch all the goals and action from this week's round of the National League with our highlight show exclusively live on DAZN every Sunday from 4 p.m. Let's take a look at the games taking place this weekend in the National League. Only one place to start, the local derby, Oldham versus Rochdale. It's going to be a feisty affair, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Two teams, listen, like we say, playoff candidates, and they could potentially end up coming up against each other in the playoffs. So, this is definitely a game that both teams will want to get the upper hand on, and just basically build on their recent results. Oldham have won for the first time in a little while. Rochdale on a great run, and it's a local derby, so it's always a feisty occasion.
I'm going to say, you must have played in multiple local derbies. Does it, as a player, do you have that extra 10% because of what it means to the fans as well?
Absolutely. These games, no one can hide in these games. The fans are very demanding when it comes to derbies, and this gives bragging rights. So you want to make sure that you go out, you want to make sure you perform, but most of all, you want to make sure you win. So, both teams will be going full throttle to get the 3 points.
And you said it could be these two teams playing against each other in the playoffs. So it'd be good to get the momentum going into those fixtures, beating someone that you might come up against, and you might learn something new from when you played them earlier in the season.
Absolutely. You only need to look at Rochdale, their win over Altrincham. They played Altrincham a couple of weeks ago in the FA Trophy, knocked them out of that, and went on and got the 3 points in the next game. So I'm sure they would have learned a few things about Altrincham in the FA Trophy win, and then they've taken it into their league form as well. So I do think that both teams will be trying to suss each other out. Both teams will be desperate to get the 3 points, but I think for Rochdale it's even more important. If they can continue to build on the run that they're on, 3 games in a row they've now won. If they're able to now go and beat a promotion candidate in Oldham, that will just give the whole place a huge lift and really start to believe that, this could be our season.
In another game, Forest Green take on Southend United. We've spoken about Forest Green and we expect them to be in the 2nd or 3rd spot. Their season's pretty much looking solid. As for Southend United, who've got a great win over Altrincham, if they can get a victory away at Forest Green, one, that could put them in the hunt for the playoffs, and two, it's a real statement victory of where they're currently at.
Absolutely. I think that you look at where Southend are, and they'll be disappointed with the season that they've had so far. They were definitely one of the tips to go on and win the league, let alone get promoted through the playoffs. And they've probably fallen short of that, and a number of reasons for that. The takeover's complete, but in terms of finances, they're probably not where they want to be. The form hasn't been as consistent as they would have liked and as Kevin Mayer would have liked, but they are still in with a chance of reaching those playoffs. It is going to be tough, and they are going to have to go on one hell of a run to achieve that. But if they're able to go and beat Forest Green, that goes a long way towards it. That again will fill this team with belief that they can compete with the top teams, and they can go out and get victories. So they've hit a decent run now. They now need to get that consistency. They now need to build on that. And if they are to get into the playoffs, these are the games that they just have to win.
Altrincham Aldershot is another great game. For the home side, they haven't won since that brilliant away victory against York, and they've lost to 2 playoff competitors. How important is it for them now that they get back on track to sort of cement their place in the playoffs?
Yeah, hugely. You know, they'll feel disappointed that they've dropped out of the playoffs now. You know, you see Rochdale have gone in there and they've got games in hand. They now need to get back on it. You know, I think it's 3 defeats in their last 4 games. That's not playoff form, you know, and they are at risk of missing out. You know, there'll be nothing worse than them getting to the end of the season, missing out on the playoffs and having to sit and watch it thinking, you know what, if we'd have just done a little bit more, we'd be competing and have the chance to go up. Last season, they just fell short in the playoffs. This season, really, they wanted to be kicking on, you know, like Barnet have. They wanted to be kicking on and competing. Financially, they're not in that top bracket, but footballing-wise, manager-wise, player-wise, they're definitely, you know, in that top bracket of players and of teams. So they need to get back on it. And if they do, like I say, I fancy them in the playoffs. I really do. But at the moment, their current form is they've just come off the boil a little bit and they need to get back to winning ways.
Eastleigh dipped into the transfer market to bring in Nathan Shakuna to help them with their playoff promotion hopes. He gets sent off in the 93rd minute and misses the next 3 games, we presume. How much of a blow is that for them now? And it must be so frustrating to bring a player in to then not have him for the next few games.
Absolutely. You know, such a good player. You know, did brilliant for Tamworth and he was a real rock for them. You know, used to be in that midfield, had an eye for goal, had a good delivery, you know, would score and assist goals, but was a solid presence in the middle of the park for Tamworth. Great signing for Eastleigh. But like you say, you know, on his debut, comes on after 43 minutes, doesn't finish the game, ends up getting sent off. And it was for violent conduct as well. So that'll be a 3-game ban that he now has to serve. There's nothing worse for a manager than when your new signing, you know, whether it's through injury or through suspension, isn't able to go out there and play for you. But they have to deal with it. You know, they've got this far without him. And I'm sure that they'll continue for the next 3 games without him. But yeah, it is a blow for Nathan and for Eastleigh.
For Wealdstone, who host Eastleigh at the weekend, for them it's every point counts at this stage of the season. If it's 1, if it's 3, obviously, hopefully the latter for them, but they just need to start winning games.
Yeah, they had a brilliant run. You know, I think they won 3 games in a row. And all of a sudden you're looking at Wealdstone and saying, do you know what? They'll be out of this in a couple of weeks. Last couple of games, they just haven't managed to hit the heights that they were. And you bang on. They just now need to start picking up points again. You know, they can't allow that 2 games to turn into 3, to turn into 4, because once you get in that rut, it's very difficult to get out of. And they find themselves in that bottom 4 at the moment. They need to find a way out of it, especially with the likes of Boston, who all of a sudden, they've found their rhythm. They're now starting to pick up points. If they overtake you, the confidence will definitely start to really drain out of Wealdstone. And it's difficult to get out of that.
Our second featured game at the weekend for this double header is Hartlepool versus Solihull. Both teams might not have a lot to play for at this stage, but in the previous fixture, there was a 7-goal thriller. So can we expect more of the same?
We can hope for more. We can hope for more of the same. This is very much a game of 2 teams where they don't really have a lot to play for. It's more pride that both are playing for. You know, Hartlepool have definitely underachieved this season and will just be looking to almost build ready for next season. Solihull only just got their first win under Matt Taylor. You know, so again, they need to just try and back it up and start to try and find the level of performance that is expected from the manager. I don't think they've found that anywhere near up until now. And you have to put it in perspective. Their only victory has come against Ebbsfleet, who are, you know, more or less relegated already. So this game will go a long way towards just instilling a little bit of belief in what the manager's asking them to do and in their performance on the pitch against a team that's in and around them. But, you know, there's a lot of work for both of these clubs to do between now and next season to be able to go and compete at the top end of table.
And there's another cracking game down at the bottom end of the table. Braintree hosting Boston United. That is set up to be an absolute cracker. And obviously Braintree have brought in Kyrese Lisbie as well now. We spoke about how, I remember saying it on the Multi-Match Live, will Kyrell be there and can he get a move? His brother's now come and joined him at Braintree, which we didn't think about, on loan from Colchester. So it's set up for a brilliant game.
Well, it's interesting. You have to wonder whether or not they've watched the pod and thought, you know what, instead of Kyrell...
Let's bring the family over.
Yeah, instead of Kyrell going to Colchester, bring Kyrese here. Listen, for me, it's a masterstroke. Kyrese plays last night, scores on his debut, and them two have it goes without saying, they have a chemistry. They've played together before. They're both on separate journeys, but it's amazing how they both find themselves at Braintree, and it can only be a good thing for them. Kyrell's already got 10 goals in the National League this season. He's their top goal scorer. Kyrese is coming from, he's been at Brentford. He's signed permanently for Colchester, but now gets the opportunity to go and play week in, week out alongside his brother in the National League just to help his progression. So for me, it's a masterstroke signing, and this is going to be a hell of a game. Boston, banging form right now. Braintree, banging form right now. Two teams both looking to move away from danger, but both in good form. So yeah, this is if I had to pick a game, this would be the game that I'd pick.
I'm looking forward to seeing the Lisbies playing together, but I'm also interested to see how Kyrese celebrates a goal, because Kyrell does some brilliant dance move. We'll have to show you that right now. He scores again at the weekend. He's got a dance move for every goal he scores.
Well, he must have a lot of dance moves. When I sat down with him, and he said that he likes to, be expressive, and if he's the best dancer in the dressing room. I said to him, "Can you dance?" And he was like, "Listen, everyone knows I can dance." Well, looking at his celebrations, he's right. He can dance. It would be nice. It would be nice to see them, do a little dance or something together. I'm sure if you look on their TikTok, I'm sure they've got one or two.
Yeah, it's going to be another fantastic week of National League football, exclusively live on DAZN. And the first legs of the Women's UEFA Champions League quarter-finals take place next week. And on the Wednesday, there's an all-English tie between Manchester City and Chelsea. And it's all happening on the global home of women's football, DAZN.
What makes a show iconic? Of course, big stars help. But a truly soul-stirring, adrenaline-fueled, once-in-a-lifetime kind of show?
Who dares to believe?
That's a feeling.
Caroline Weir from distance. Oh, goodness me!
No rehearsals.
Brilliant from Bayern.
No second takes.
Alessia Russo.
Just 90 iconic minutes you will never forget. The UEFA Women's Champions League 2025. Enjoy the show.
A reminder to not miss the battles in the north this weekend as Oldham Athletic clash with rivals Rochdale from 12:15 and Hartlepool United host Solihull Moors. One of the biggest talking points this week is that Dagenham and Redbridge star Michael Hector, who signed for the club just a few days ago, has announced that he'll also be playing in the Baller League. Erin, there's a lot of disgruntled fans, and probably rightly so. What's your take on it?
Well, can he do both? Yes. It'll be interesting to know whether or not Dagenham and Redbridge were aware that he was going to be entering to the Baller League. Obviously, it's six-a-side football, so I think that their only issue really would be if he was to get injured. Dagenham are on a run of 12 games without a win at the moment, fighting for their life to stay in the National League. So I can understand why supporters are, not happy with it. But you've got to say, if he's had an agreement with the club that he's able to play for Dagenham and also compete in the Ballers League, then, you can't say that the player's done anything wrong.
You'd imagine that if Dagenham and Redbridge weren't in the situation they were in, and maybe they were mid-table, nothing to play for, the fans might not be as upset, as it were.
Yeah, I think fans are always going to be upset when one of their players is going and representing someone else. I don't mean international, but going and representing, another club. I don't think teams would like players to go out and be playing five-a-side football, six-a-side football for anyone else other than playing for their club. So you do always run the risk that an injury could occur or fatigue could kick in. If he's tired, if he plays on the Monday and then they have a game on the Tuesday, how does that work? So I don't know how the dynamics are going to quite work out, but that's for Michael and Dagenham Redbridge to iron out. And like you say, he's only just signed for the club, so it's not a great start to have fans complaining already, is it?
How come you didn't get the call up?
Because I'm retired, so I'm officially hung my boots up. I'm sure that if I was still available, I'm sure they would have all been trying to snap me up.
Erin, well, their loss is always our gain. We love having you here on DAZN. So make sure you tune in this weekend for the big double header, which is exclusively live on DAZN. But from us here in the studio, that's it for this week, and we'll see you next time. Good evening and welcome to Multi-Match Live.
Here on DAZN, we bring you all the goals, action and drama from tonight's National League game.
With eagle-eyed is York City striker Josh Stones. How are you, sir?
Ball towards Fondo and he scored.
One match just scored.
That's the best performance as a team I've seen with them season. People have written you off.
Josh, firstly, mate, where are you?
I'm sitting in my car outside Dagenham Redbridge Stadium. I've popped out to have a chat with you two guys before I go back in to watch the rest of the game.
What a night of National League football.
Brilliant. It gives you everything.
Can't beat the National League live coverage on DAZN. Have a wonderful evening. We'll see you next time.
What a wonderful goal.